with respect to what's going on in Israel. South Africa has filed a case at the International Court of Justice in The Hague, accusing Israel of committing genocide in Gaza. International law expert Francis Boyle, who has argued successfully at the ICJ, says he believes South Africa will win an order against Israel.
Explain why it's South Africa that's bringing this charge, and what exactly is the International Court of Justice, where it fits into the world justice system, and talk about the charge of genocide.
Well, thank you very much for having me on, Amy. My best to your listening audience. Not to toot my own horn here, but I was the first lawyer ever to win anything under the Genocide Convention from the International Court of Justice that goes back to 1921. I single-handedly won 2 world court orders for the Republic of Bosnia-Herzegovina against Yugoslavia to cease and desist from committing all acts of genocide. And based on my careful review of all the documents so far submitted by the Republic of South Africa, I believe South Africa will win an order against Israel to cease and desist from committing all acts of genocide against the Palestinians.
This guy's a bit NATO coded. Brace yourself. Of course. What are you talking about? He's an ICJ lawyer. Of course he's NATO coded. One thing I was thinking about this morning that I wanted to bring up is I pummel on libs a lot, especially institutional libs. Okay? A lot. But one of the things I have to mention here is that regardless of how much I dunk on liberals and whatnot and dunk on Democrats, I still take a lot of it, and you do as well, take a lot of what they do for granted. Okay? I was thinking about it from the perspective of like Harvard and the research that is done at like institutes of higher learning, because like there are still plenty of liberals in American institutions that are doing a very important job, right? The FDA, sure. There's a lot of issues that you can have with the CDC. There's a lot of issues that you can have with the FDA. There's a lot of issues that you can have with the American government. But those Democrats, oftentimes, and even Republicans sometimes, that work at said institutions are kind of making everything work. And this is important. It's important for someone who I might disagree with on other instances to go out and still do this prosecution. Just like it's important for the UN to consistently keep bringing up charges against Israel, even if it doesn't do anything, right? It's important. It's important because, well, one, it becomes history. Chatter copied a comment from another chatter 10 minutes. Nobody knows chatter, but I know. I saw. Like, the same even goes for those who go and you know, argue in support of labor rights in front of the Supreme Court. It's like giving up on all of these institutions across the board is never the right is never the right option, right? This is also, I guess, part of the reason why I advocate for incremental change, marginal change. I advocate for voting, you know, participating in the American elections. Right? That's it.
Palestinians. And then we will have an official determination by the International Court of Justice itself, the highest legal authority in the United Nations system, that genocide is going on. And under Article 1 of the Genocide Convention.
Is the classic argument used against anarchists kind of? No. It is, but also it's the argument that I make for anarchists. I say anarchists are often wreckers. Anarchists don't like showering. But I also still take a lot of anarchists for granted in the sense that they're also at the forefront of direct action. They're at the forefront of mutual aid. it's correct they don't shower, and it's correct that they engage in wrecker behavior regularly. However, and maybe they are too lost in the weeds of idealism, almost childlike idealism. But overall, as it stands, with respect to where we are in these final stages of capitalism, anarchists are doing a tremendous amount of work. Can you please tell me what you mean by wrecker? It's exactly what you think it means. It means someone who wrecks any kind of solidarity, any kind of political movement by portraying themselves oftentimes as a prominent member of said movement, while simultaneously they work specifically to attack solidarity. People who gatekeep. An example I will give you is an example of wreckers that I will give you is like a silly example, but it's not that there's any sort of real movement on the internet sphere of political commentary, but people who make it their business specifically to attack other leftist content creators on one issue or another while claiming that you're only doing this because this is good housekeeping. And the real fear that you have to, the real fear is actually the quote unquote tankies and not necessarily the fascists that are both in positions of power and also play a phenomenally important role in American foreign policy. Like this is what would be a wrecker. Or someone engaging as a wrecker. Sometimes it could be in prior years, I guess, when America had a more robust socialist movement in the Red Scare era and onward. These people would not be, these people would sometimes even be, according to the CIA, FBI handbooks, purposely plucked and picked to prevent solidarity and organizing from happening, right? And engage in constant fighting, constant infighting. Nowadays, people just do it to themselves, obviously, so it doesn't even matter. You don't need to get money from outside groups or anything like that. I don't like your description of anarchist theory and anarchists in themselves. I think it's pretty reductive and service level. Peace and love. Though you do good work, thank you for all you do, even though you have the same misunderstandings as Engels. Anyway, let's continue.
All contracting parties, 153 states, will then be obliged, quote, to prevent, unquote, the genocide by Israel against the Palestinians. Second, when the World Court gives this cease and desist order against Israel, the Biden administration will stand condemned under Article 3, Paragraph E of the Genocide Convention that criminalizes complicity in genocide. And clearly, we know that the Biden administration has been aiding and abetting Israeli genocide against the Palestinians here for quite some time. This has also been raised by my friends in the Center for Constitutional Rights and in the National Lawyers Guild in a lawsuit against Biden, Blinken, and Austin. So I believe we will be able to use the World Court order. Right now, my sources tell me the hearing will be January 11, January 12. Based on my experience with the Bosnians, we can expect an order within a week. I would also say, with respect to the Biden administration, they are currently in violation of the Genocide Convention Implementation Act that makes genocide a crime under United States law. And again, once South Africa wins this order, the Biden administration also will stand in violation of the Genocide Convention Implementation Act. So I believe this is where we will be going.
On talking to chatters, I'm the son of coal miners, he said. You are the descendant of feudal mandarins. We have nothing in common. Perhaps we do, murmured his Chinese antagonist. What? Blustered Khrushchev. We are, responded Zhu. Both traitors to our class. Well, I mean, I am a class traitor, I guess, if you want to consider me a part of the capital owning class.
Between now, I would say, and the end of this month. And it is up to all of us as American citizens to figure out and support what South Africa is doing at the International Court of Justice here.
Francis Boyle, what's the difference between the International Court of Justice and the International Criminal Court, which is already considering allegations of war crimes by both Israel as well as the Palestinian military?
Well, let me tell you what's not different. America pulled out of both in different time frames, okay? Last one being under the Trump administration. The one prior was way back in the day.
Groups.
Right, Juan. The International Court of Justice was originally established back in 1921, its predecessor, legal predecessor in law. And that is where I filed the genocide case. I was the first lawyer ever to win 2 orders in one such case since the World Court was founded in 1921, and it was on the basis of the Genocide Convention. The International Criminal Court is a separate international organization set up in 2000. The problem, one, is this. Back in 2009, after Operation Cast Lead, I advised Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas to accept the jurisdiction of the International Court, of the International Criminal Court for Palestine, which he did. I regret to report that the International Criminal Court has not done one darn thing to help the Palestinians since 2009. The International Criminal Court has all the blood of the Palestinian people on its hands since 2009. And Juan, that is why we set up a campaign to find a state willing to file a lawsuit at the International Court of Justice, the World Court.
Yeah. Anyway, but that's not surprising because for the most part, it is a direct consequence of America's unconditional and vociferous support. So that's something you need to remember. It's something you need to realize. That's it. It's just all manner of different organs of justice, and the international scale is oftentimes directed by the hegemonic power. In this case, it's the United States of America. It's just the truth. That's why when America engages in war crimes, there's no way that you can actually prosecute that. Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to do that? You do not have the enforcement mechanism. My nephew said you are pro-Hamas, but I do not think that is true. You just want what's best for Palestinians. Your nephew said I'm pro-Hamas. God. Okay. You have a nephew A lot easier to win a case against Serbia in the 90s. Don't know why he has confidence in South Africa's case against Israel. All right. We're going to move back to the real act of terror here. That's right. Have it. The worst act of terror that has ever happened. In Have it. Claudia Gay has resigned amid renewed plagiarism allegations weeks after anti-Semitism hearing.
Here in the U.S., there are strong reactions over the resignation of Claudine Gay as president of Harvard University yesterday. After controversial testimony on Capitol Hill last month, she also faced claims of plagiarism allegations she strongly denies. Nicole Killian is following all of this, is in Washington. Nicole, good morning.
Hey, good morning to you, Jerika. Some Republican lawmakers, including the speaker, say this was long overdue, and Claudine Gay's sudden departure.
Not even going to mention Israel's lawyer? Oh, yeah, I forgot. I mean, it's a meme, but Israel is thinking about bringing the greatest lawyer of all time for this case. That's right, the Dersh. The Dersh is back. The boys are back in town, and the Dersh is back in town. The Dersh! Yep. Listen, man. Listen. Especially as the Epstein associates' names are being revealed, there's no better time. There's no better time for the best lawyer, Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer, to come out and swing for the fences here, okay? Because, like, if we know one thing, Israel does have a no extradition to the United States policy, which is part of the reason why a lot of pedophiles like going to Israel. If they don't go to France, of course. Okay? This is true. Now, I'm not saying Alan Dershowitz is a pedophile. I'm simply saying he has successfully defended pedophiles, like Jeffrey Epstein, and also has written articles about the constitutionality argument of the age of consent laws and why they must be lowered, constitutionally, of course. A tenured Harvard professor, Alan Dershowitz, who famously kept his underwear on at all times around the famous sex trafficker, friend to Ehud Barak, former Israeli prime minister, of course, Jeffrey Epstein, has a lot to lose if, Israel's political situation falls apart. I'm just saying, potentially. So according to your moderators, calling the IRA and the ANC not terrorists, would I get banned? Palestinians have the right to defend themselves? I agree. I do agree. According to your moderators, calling the IRA and the ANC not terrorists, would I get banned? I don't know what you're trying to say. Are you in here to spark drama and chaos? Is that what it is? I've said this before. Yeah, I timed you out for spamming, by the way. Timeout equals bans. I've said this before. When all is said and done, did the ANC engage in acts of terror against civilians? Of course they did, right? Some gruesome ones as well. The IRA did as well. When all is said and done, what do you look at? So does the FLN. What do you look at? When we make an assessment when we make a historical assessment, what is the major act of violence in South Africa, for example? Is it the ANC's acts or is it the apartheid itself? The same goes for Israel's apartheid and the resistance to said apartheid. The same goes for the Vietnamese liberation. Is it the Viet Cong? that you think about when you think about the Vietnamese, when you think about America's war in Vietnam? Who was the bad actors in that regard?
ICC basically operates at the behest of its funders and founders and masters, which is the U.S., the NATO states, the European states, etc., until their expedited indictment of President Putin as U.S. NATO lawfare against Russia. The International Criminal Court had not indicted one American, one European, one Brit, one NATO citizen, and one Israeli, and one white person. So we have a campaign.
Wait, why did I get to this? We were talking about Claudine Gay. All right, let's talk about the real terror. The real terror being conducted. Oh, wait, this was the last thing. Friend of the show, Ryan Grimm, also engaged in. Okay, it's time. It's time to talk about. I was mentioning the Dersh, and then I went back to that video, but this is what I wanted to talk about.
To follow up on Turkey, I'm sure you've seen Turkey has joined South Africa in its charging Israel with genocide before the International Court of Justice. Is there any concern within the State Department that State Department officials could be roped into this prosecution?
No, I will say that as it relates to the State Department, we have been committed to addressing the humanitarian situation in Gaza and have made a priority of preventing, as I just said in response to your question, the displacement of Palestinians. I will also say, though, that genocide is, of course, a heinous atrocity, one of the most heinous atrocities that any individual can commit.
Which is why we're supporting Israel doing such heinous atrocity and refusing to call it that, right? That's what he's going to say, I assume.
Those are allegations that should not be made lightly, and as it pertains to the United States, we are not seeing any acts that constitute genocide.
And finally, over the break, topic.
Dude, see, this is, no. This is big. Here's why it's big. This is why these, like, liberal institutions in the rule-based international order still kind of work in some ways, okay? Sure, it's not the same as, like, I don't know, criminally prosecuting like a person who stole Gucci bags or something, right? It's not as like immediate, and the mechanisms of enforcement obviously take some time. It's not the same as like a cop arresting you, right? But having said that, like the way that he is approaching the subject matter is not as dismissive as it would have been if there was no a court case being filed. Do you see what I mean? Like, these things do at least work in influencing the State Department, because it's just another prong of it's just another prong of attack. It's just another pressure point. You know what I mean?
Authorities in the Armenian quarter expressed deep concern that the Israeli government was using the conflict in Gaza to push out a lot of Armenian Christians from the Armenian quarter. Any response?
So no specific response to that, but as we have said on a number of occasions, we do not want to see the government of Israel take any steps that would escalate tensions. So, go ahead.
And to follow